Many, and all of them wanted to be gods and to rule. The Chronides had to destroy them in order to consolidate their power over the world. Inflicting wounds upon Olympian joy. All misfortunes come from them. All anxieties and storms come from them. They call upon us the subterranean power of the children of night. Proud, insolent. And the most insolent and daring of all is the unsubmissive daughter of Phorcys, Medusa. Oh, proud is the Gorgon. She does not honor me. She boasts of her strength. She boasts of her ancient Titan freedom. Give her to me. Let her submit to Poseidon. Together he and I will break her Titan might and insubordination. She herself is strong, wants to be my equal, and Prometheus's brother, the Titan Menoetius, still protects her. He boasted that he, the supermighty, is stronger than you, Chronides. Give her to me. And Menoetius. Chronides sprang from his place. The great calm was shaken. Olympus shuddered. The sea and the land trembled. Zeus Chronides thunders with his thunderbolt. With the tridents of his lightnings, he cleaves the constrained expanse. The seas boil in cauldron abysses. Marsh bubbles seethe, exploding. Eyeless mountains step. They drown out groans with thunder. Girded with locks of clouds, with his aegis, the thunder god himself smites. He shines, blinds the earth for an instant, and again cloaks himself in darkness. What is this? As if subterranean caves burst out into the light from the bowels of the earth, soared upwards, and with enormous gullet wombs swallow the air. It is stifling. The air twisted into plates whirlpools, plated itself, and lashes with cables, as if from the shoulder. ANDTHEREISNOSHOULDER. Hundreds of giant arms scour the air, seeking in the swirls of mist with blind giant fingers, feeling chasms and mountains. Is it not Briareus the hundred-handed who has risen from the abyss of abysses at Chronides' call? Now thousands of pincer fingers have seized. They drag someone into the gaping depths, into the great darkness of night. Someone's body has eclipsed the whole sky. Who is it? With whom has Chronides clashed? Whom has he overcome? The trident flashed. It split half the sky, illuminated half the world with stormy fire. WOE to the Titanesses. The son of Iapetus, Menoetius, Prometheus's brother, they press. The wrenched muscles masses writhe, swell into knots of monstrous boas. The sinews groan from strain, like the north wind Boreas in the Othrys gorge. They are about to burst. The body heaved so hard that the ridge of mountains bent like a tree from the furious whirlwinds, and the mountains remained hunchbacked. But hundreds of hands and giant pincers dragged the unprecedented body. There is no breaking free. Lightning sprayed, illuminated, scorched. The maw of Erebus opened. Horses reared. The god of the netherworld, Hades himself, rose from the gloom, as if showing the way. The earth shook. A terrible crash sounded, as if the sky had shattered into pieces. Shaggy clouds descended to the very earth, lifted, and the earth fell mute. And then a muffled groan resounded, a wail, a howl over the seas, fields, forests. What and from where? These are the sister Gorgon warrioresses rushing about with a sorrowful cry, howling menacingly. Where is the enemy? And, stretching out their swan-like necks, the Greae sisters beat their wings upon the seething waters, and sing so piteously that a heart of stone would weep too. These are they, the swan songs that no one has ever heard. Among the immortals, a mortal weariness. Medusa grew weary. For days and nights, someone had been pursuing her as a black cloud. She turned into a golden-maned maiden mare, a maiden to the waist, a mare from the golden withers. The Titaness senses the enemy with her blood. She utters the battle cry of the Titans. The black cloud is silent. She lay down in a meadow in the tall spring grass, among unfamiliar flowers. The naiads started their round dances. They splashed her with spring water, as a newlywed, laughed, and vanished into the transparent cold of the springs. A little cloud shone in the sky. It drifted from Olympus, played with flying rainbows. What is this little cloud? What are these blue, green, scarlet, yellow birds flying in an arc across the sky? Medusa gazed. She forgot herself. The fearless one fell asleep. The menacing horse, the black-maned one, is before her. He did not even give a chance to stamp his hoof. She did not manage to cast her gaze. He covered her with a black cloud. Medusa cried out with the Gorgon cry. The cry flew as far as two seas. The Gorgon sisters and the Greae fly to her aid. As two whirlwinds, three storms. But reinforcements also come to the black cloud. That little cloud in rainbows rushes from Olympus to meet the Gorgons and Greae. And something wondrously glitters within it. Pallas herself catches the golden rain of the sun upon her shield, casts scorching gold into the eyes of the Greae sisters. She blinded the three storms. They groaned, howled. The blind Phorcys spun about. They fly at one another. The two Gorgons, two whirlwinds, rushed past. They clash with the little cloud. The battle cry of Gorgon Euryale rang out. She threw herself from afar with a leap flight onto Pallas's shield, knocked the shield from her hand, and howled from the bite of the scorching gold. There, in the distant ocean, the Gorgon Yali fell. The Gorgon's Theno struck with a hurricane wing, snatched the spear from Pallas, aimed the spear's tip at the goddess's chest, and froze, as if turned to stone. Pallas wore the aegis of Zeus, the goatskin with the bogey face upon it. Strength left the strong Stheno. Zeus's daughter seized her with her left Olympian hand, hurled her, and all trace of the mighty Gorgon vanished. There, beyond the ocean, she fell. The goddess looked around. The Gree circle as blind storms. They weep for their sighted eyes. The winged ones cling to one another. The goddess turned towards the earth. There is no black cloud in the meadow. The Titaness Medusa lies on the grasses and flowers. She has spread out her arms. She has revealed to the whole world an unseen beauty. And far around, like cornfields laid low by the wind, her golden hair was scattered. In the Naiad springs, the golden rains of hair are drowning, and around the oaks and plane trees they have twined. And then they poured in golden streams into a crevice, into the depths of the earth, where the black-maned one had gone. Pallas laughed so hard that with her laughter she deafened all the birds, and the flowers, and the trees, and the waters. From that time on, the songs of birds, and of flowers, and of groves, and of springs fell silent in that place. The three blind Gree descended to the Gorgon. With their fingers they felt Medusa's body, shrouded it in their gray hair, and carried it away to the ocean, to the edge of the earth. Menacing and vengeful are the gods of Olympus. Ominous is the darkness. In the earthly darkness, like roots of trees, serpents grow and grow into the body, hiss and sting, and coil into rings. He who is doomed to earthly darkness is fated to become serpent spawn. His beautiful form will change into a monstrous form. His legs will turn into a serpent's tail, his hair will stand on end, coil into snakes, and serpents will grow from his hips and neck. His skin will gleam with scales, and fangs will sprout from his mouth. His hands will become bronze, and his eyes, better not to see those eyes. Frightful is the image of former beauty. And when wings and clawed paws grow, and the monster takes flight as a man-eating dragon, who will recognize in it the former beautiful Titaness? Whether by will or by force she turned into a winged serpent, it is all the same. The Titaness is no more. They will forget her former beauty and her heart, firm with truth, like adamant. Her former name, when she was a joyful Titaness, will be forgotten, and a new name, terrible and vile, will stick to her, and they will frighten children with her name. Here comes Gorgo. Gorgo will take you. Gorgo will eat you. She won't even leave the bones. Frightful tales about her ferocity and invincibility will crawl from land to land, though no one has ever laid eyes on her. And with black truth slander they will cover her face, disfigured and slandered by the malice and vengeance of a god who does not forgive insubordination. And indeed, black truth will do its work. The black fire of ferocity, of reciprocal rage against the rage of mortals and gods, will flare up in the Titaness' mighty heart. The heart will grow savage, the thought will turn beast-like, the word will growl. Revenge for revenge will become sweet, hatred for hatred. And in the monstrous form, a soul monster will be born, a dragon within a dragon, a man-eater within a man-eater. Thus, let a hero-deliverer, who knows no fear, be born and strike down the monster. Time will command, and the hero will come. High, above the ocean itself, in a cave of porphyry rock, the Gorgon sisters hid themselves. There is the serpent lair. All around is haze and more haze. When the purple of sunset, dying away, casts a reflection on the stones, the rock seems as if made of bronze. And, like a dream, for an instant there becomes visible far away on the ocean waters the chalice boat of Helios, and upon it the chariot and his wondrous horses. Further still, the purple island and the bare rock of the lonely sirens. The pale shore of Aea, where the sorceress Circe shimmers. And, the dim rising of Selene moon from the ocean waters. Distant singing is heard. In the magical garden, the Hesperides lull to sleep the dragon, the keeper of the golden apples. At the edge of the cave, facing the ocean, leaning on their elbows, the Gorgon sisters gaze with a fixed stare into the fixed expanse. They gaze and sleep. A cold hangs, boundlessly far. Nothing stirs. Below, under the rock, the Gree, the blind old women, guard the sleep of the Gorgons. Ominous is the form of the Gree. The skin of the Gree is like bone. The cold has dried out their swan-like body. The darkness has bleached the silver of their gray hair. Among the three, one eye. Among the three, one dragon's tooth. Helios dropped for them a round sunstone from his crown, a sun eye. The Gree guard the Gorgons. One keeps vigil, the other two slumber. The one who keeps vigil inserts the sunstone into the empty eye socket and illuminates the darkness. The Gria becomes sighted. She inserts the dragon's tooth into her gum. The mouth is like a beak, the tooth like a fong. She stretches out her long neck and moves beak and eye around the sides. When the time comes, the old woman will wake the old woman. One Gria will pass to the other Gria her eye, her tooth. One keeps watch, the other two slumber standing. Ominous is the form of the Grii. Fearsome is the form of the Gorgons. Pallas turn their hair into serpents. And once a year, when the Gorgons fly out into the world of living life, then the serpents howl with a hateful lament and whirl like whirlwinds around their heads. But more frightful than the serpents are the eyes of Medusa. As the merry thunderstorms of the earth were the Titaness' eyes in former times. But grief entered her eyes. The eyes were astonished by grief, opened wide, and grief turned to stone within them. And all that fills the blood of the Titans, the ferocity of Titan truth, wild freedom and pride, turned to stone in that stony grief. Whoever Medusa looks in the eyes with her stony gaze, those eyes turn to stone. And the whole living body instantly turns into stone. Her gaze became unbearable. Even the Gorgon sisters, Stheno and Euryale, did not look into Medusa's eyes. Only once a year did the Gorgons fly out from their lair into the world of living life. This occurred on the day of the sacred marriage of Zeus and Hera. And Medusa learned during the flight of the terrible secret of her stony eyes. Wherever Medusa flew, everything that lives and breathes turned to stone. People, beasts, birds, and grasses. Even waters froze into ice under the Gorgons' gaze. The Gorgon sisters exulted. They shouted their battle cry, directed their flight towards Olympus. The gods of Olympus would turn to stone from Medusa's gaze. But Cronides surrounded high Olympus with a curtain of sheet lightnings. In vain the Gorgons circled with the Gorgon cry and the howling of the serpents. Like sea stars, the sheet lightnings scorched the mighty maidens, playing and wafting, awakened in the Gorgon maidens' desire and a trembling, unfamiliar to them before, in the lair of dreams. Then the Gorgons called upon the Titans. And to the call, the children of earth came forth. But as soon as they approached the fearsome maidens, Medusa looked them in the eyes, and the Titans turned to stone. There was no joy for the Gorgons. And the sheet lightnings, playing, kept scorching. And as a moaning wind, the Gorgons returned at the rising of dawn to their lair of death and dreams. From the stone mountains, with a stony step, a rumor passed across the earth about the stone kingdoms that grew on the skin of the earth during the fearsome flight of the Gorgons, and about the frightful gaze of Medusa. And everything evil and fierce grew upon the rumor about the Gorgons. It was said, "Here comes from the darkness of the netherworld the bogey of night, the hag Gorgo, the man-eater devours children. In Gorgo's mouth are fangs, her legs are bronze, her skin is dragon's hide, in her belt are serpents." It was forgotten that the Gorgon sisters are Titanesses. Rumor turned the Gorgon sisters into the likeness of the hag Gorgo, into the bogey of night, but with the eyes of Medusa. And the immortal Titaness herself did not know that all the strength of her mighty body had gone into her eyes. Medusa's body became mortal, superscript 1, and only her head alone remained immortal. The Gorgon sisters and the Grii knew this and vigilantly guarded Medusa. But the gods also knew this. That frightful power of Medusa troubled the serene gods before the birth of the giants, before the coming battles with them, and Pallas most of all. The goddess wanted to possess Medusa's eyes, to bear the Gorgon's gaze on her battle shield, as Cronides bears the Aegis. And she burned with jealous wrath. Even there, at the farthest edge of the earth, where oblivion is, the Titaness was again stronger than Pallas. But the gods themselves do not enter into battle with those cast out from living life. The gods spawned a race of heroes half-gods. Let the half-gods heroes fight with the outcast. And Pallas pondered. She directed her thought into the world. Who will be the Gorgon slayer? Who will fetch her Medusa's head? Superscript 1 the text says, Bulla Smirtnum, was mortal, for the body. The original says, Stala Smirtnum, Phila Meding, Medusa's body became mortal. Part 2. The tale of the son of the golden rain. The winds have many ears, they hear everything. The sun has many eyes, it sees everything. The winds, children of Aeolus, spread the news across sultry Libya. The grasses whisper to the sands whisper to the stones whisper to the springs. The son of the golden rain is coming from the Red Seas. He seeks the plains of the Gorgons. The Nereids, daughters of the truth-loving old man of the sea, Nereus, grew alarmed. By Lake Tritonis, which is near the Atlantean realms, at the edge of the earth, Pallas herself has appeared. There Zeus gave birth to her. The Nereids know. Into the underground of a bronze tower, Zeus penetrated to the mortal Danae as a golden rain. It must be that Danae was of Titan race, since she ended up in a bronze tower. Danae conceived and bore Perseus, the half-god hero, the son of the golden rain. He has now grown and comes from the Red Seas. The Nereids know Cronides awaited a son of Titan race, a deliverer from the subterranean Titan machinations. He wants to utterly exterminate the Titans with Titans. They enclosed the mortal Danae with her infant in a wooden chest and cast it into the sea. For a long time the chest was carried by the waves, and the Nereids, amusing themselves with the curious thing, washed it ashore on the island of Seriphos. The chest opened, Danae and Perseus came out onto the shore. Thus the infant became a half-god, a fearless hero. Pallas conceived a fearsome deed. The secret thoughts of Cronides are open to her. She acts out her own whim, but fulfills his will. She suggested to Perseus the desire to rid the world of an evil monster whose gaze turns all living things to stone, to cut off the head of the Gorgon Medusa. The god Hermes secretly guides the hero. Hermes alone does not shun the world of shades. Between gods and Titans, he is the mediator, the god of earthly deceptions. And here he himself, the messenger of Olympus, flies to the Nereids. Hermes called upon the Nereids. You, the plaything of truth, superscript 1, Titanesses of the seas, what is higher than freedom in submission? The more submissive the wave, the freer it is, the salter the tear, the sweeter it is for a truth-loving heart. Or is the salt of the sea not sweet to you? Freely you play upon the waves, but above you is the will of Cronides. At the right hand of Cronides, thy justice sits. What I say to you, she says. Meet the hero. What he asks, fulfill. The truth of the world lies in the strength of the gods. The Nereids hid themselves behind billows. They wrapped themselves in foam. Trouble is coming. Trouble is coming. It is not that truth they know. For the Cronides, their strength is truth, the truth of Olympus. For the Titans, it is their ancient truth, the truth of Mother Earth. But which truth does the hero bear? The Nereids swam away, without fetters, yet in fetters, fettered by truth, both the one and the other. Freely they play upon the waves, but above them is the will of the Cronides. The son of the golden rain approached the sea. He began to call out to the Nereids, as Hermes had taught him. Sea sisters, truth-loving Nemertes, show me the way to the frightful Gree old women, to the plains of the Gorgons. Near the garden of the Hesperides, the evening nymphs, lie those plains. I wish to hear the wondrous singing of those nymphs, to carry those songs from the ocean to the earth, to living life. What joy is it for them to sing in dead life? Whatever wonder I see, I will bring to you. Only I have nothing in which to carry it. The Nereids swayed on the waves. The hero is right. His is truth. There are many monsters in the world. I do not fear monsters. I will fight them. But I have no weapon. I have nothing with which to fight. The Nereids whirled on the waves. The hero is right. His is truth. I go openly. I go, but I do not know the world. I do not know who is my enemy, who is my friend. I go to the ocean, where no path for mortals exists. I will cross the ocean. I will enter an invisible, unseen world. I am visible to all, but the enemy is invisible. The Nereids dived into the waves. The hero is right. His is truth. The free maiden surfaced. They say something to him. Perseus cannot understand their turbulent speeches. They bring him something. Large from afar, small from nearby. They gift with the ebb. They take away with the flow. The hero cannot take the gifts. Perseus says to the Nereids, Sea sisters, what is this small large? What is this large small in your hands? Taking away, you gift. Gifting, you take away. Is such the truth in the world? The Nereids lay on their backs upon the waves. The waves stilled, fell asleep. The sea became like a smooth road. The truth-loving Nemertes swam up to Perseus, placed in his hands 3 gifts, an uncontainable pouch, an adamantine sickle, and the cap of invisibility belonging to Hades, and said, The first gift is a small pouch. If you place a mountain in it, the mountain will enter, the pouch itself will stretch into a mountain. If you place a midge in the pouch will shrink. The pouch itself will become like a midge. The second gift is a sickle, not a reaping sickle, a sickle that severs living immortal flesh from the living. It is tempered in the blood of Uranus. The third gift is the cap of shades. Beneath the earth it was forged by the Cyclopes. Whoever puts it on becomes invisible. And the Nereids dived into the green depths. The son of the golden rain took into his hands from Nemertes the 3 gifts of the Nereids. And at his feet, the waves splash. He was just about to step, when the waves grew high, rolled onto the shore, spun Perseus around, slid over his legs, his arms, his eyes, as if thousands of maidenly forms cling to him and caress him. And he cannot open his mouth. They kiss him with 1,000 lips. Everything turned upside down in his eyes. The sky was below, and the sea above, and there was no shore. Only waves upon waves, and the laughter of the Nereids. And what is where, he cannot understand. It seems he holds something firmly in his hands, and yet he holds nothing at all. Suddenly the sickle flashed before his eyes. Not one, but 100,000 sickles. Every crest of a wave is a sickle. And where's the sickle? In his hands, not in his hands. And here is the cunning pouch. It swelled up like a fish's bladder. It swells more and more. Already half the sea, half the sky is in the pouch. Already the bladder has swollen to cover half the world. Then the cap, too, out of his hands. Or in his hands. It flickered, covered the sea, and everything disappeared at once. No sea, no sky, no gifts, only the laughter of the Nereids. The sun of the golden rain lies on the shore. The sea distance is blue, sparkling. The Nereids rock on the waves and sing. Win it yourself. Win it yourself. Win it yourself. Perseus dozed off to that song. The son of the golden rain awoke. He looks, far out at sea, a dolphin bobs. The waves carry it to the shore. Closer and closer. Nemertes slumbers, lying on its scales. The body of the sea maiden shimmers silver, and over the silver, the eyes of the sun play. Perseus glanced, dove into the sea, swam up to the Nereid, embraced her in an instant, and drags the maiden prey to the shore. The daughter of the old man of the sea bent like a fish, to slip away. She won't slip out. Perseus holds her firmly. All around, the coastal stones squeeze them in. What a wonder! Perseus looks. Waterweed winds across his chest. It twined around his neck, and now the Nereid is gone. He does not loosen his embrace. Perseus holds Nemertes fast. The waterweed turned into a little serpent. It threatens, just about to sting. Perseus holds Nemertes fast. The little serpent turned into a flame. The flame runs towards his eyes. It will scorch, it will blind. The flame became a toothy maw. The claws of a lioness hung over his shoulders. Now they will pierce. Perseus holds Nemertes fast. And it is not a lioness. A bush blooms on the hero's chest, and on the lush bush, berries ripen, clinging to his lips. Take a bite. Perseus holds Nemertes fast. The hero stepped onto the shore with the bush on his chest. He looks. No bush, no berries. Only a little fish slipped out from under his fingers, threw itself at his feet, into the water. Catch me. He did not yield to the deception. Perseus holds Nemertes fast. The Titaness of the seas grew weary. The form of the sea maiden returned to her again. Nemertes says to Perseus, "You yourself won what you wanted. Release me." The son of the golden rain looks. Before him on the sand lie the three gifts. The hero unclasped his hands, released the Nereid into the sea. Pallas pondered, Perseus cannot overcome Medusa. Should he stand before her face to face, look her in the eyes, and he will turn to stone. Cunning is needed here. One must see the Gorgon without looking at the Gorgon. Pallas rushed to the edge of the earth. She hovered in the air above Lake Tritonis. She glanced into the lake. And from the lake, Pallas herself looked back at Pallas. The goddess smiled. She began to call out to the master of the lake. Triton does not come out. It is not for good that Pallas calls. The goddess plunged the tip of her spear into the lake, swirled the waters around the point, and began to spin the spear, screwing the water of the lake onto the shaft. Triton grew alarmed, plastered his eyes with sand, swam out to his waist. "Give me for a time the mirror of waters," said the goddess, "so that I may look into that mirror and see the world without seeing the world. I will return it to you and the lake." Triton is far-sighted. He knows why Pallas needs the mirror of waters. The waters always hold the hand of the Titans. The lake does not believe that truth lies in strength. But strength, that is cunning. Triton swirled his dragon tail under the water, muddied the lake. The mirror of waters drowned in the lake's ooze. "Take the mirror of waters from Father Oceanus," the friend of the Titans advised the goddess. "The murk has blinded me. I cannot wash my eyes with water." Triton knew. Pallas will not go to Oceanus on the other side of living life. The Chronai gods do not go to Oceanus. Pallas began again to spin her spear in the lake. She wound the waters of the lake from the very bottom onto the spear shaft, like ivy on an oak trunk. The sand settled. The goddess rises ever higher into the sky together with her spear. Only clear water twines along the spear up to the clouds. Triton sits in the sand in the middle of an enormous pit, and above him, the water of the lake screws itself into the sky like a watery screw. Then Triton gave Pallas the mirror of waters, and Hephaestus framed that mirror in crystal from the heavenly road. The grasses whisper to the sands whisper to the stones whisper to the springs. Hermes gifted the son of the golden rain winged sandals. Perseus flew to the greedy old women. On his arm, as a shield, is the mirror of waters. 3 goose-like necks sway in the air, 3 greedy on guard. 2 slumber, swaying, listening through their slumber. 1 keeps vigil. Wherever she turns her eye, there is a sheaf of light. She will blind the enemy with light. Whomever she slashes with her dragon fang, she will cleave in two. It is time for the guard to change. The watchful Gria woke the 2 sleeping ones, took the eye out of her eye socket. The blind one passes the eye to the blind one from hand to hand. The bony hand did not carry the eye to the other hand. Someone else's hand stretched between them, snatched the eye, and there is no one. The three Grii froze. One old woman says to another, one Gria to another, "Do you have the eye, Pimfredo?" Pimfredo says, "Do you have the eye, Inio?" Inio says, "Do you have the eye, Dano?" Dano threatens with her dragon's tooth, but there is no one to threaten. Hermes had taught Perseus how to steal the eye from the Grii. The Grii began to beat the air with their hands, searching, feeling. Where is the thief? Their fingers meet one another. There is no one. The old women cried out, howled menacingly. They try to wake the Gorgon sisters, but their voice is carried back to the earth, to living life, to the cave of Aeolus. The Gorgon sisters sleep in their lair. Only an invisible light tickles the old women's eye sockets. The eye is here, close by. Suddenly the Grii heard a voice. "Grii sisters, I am Perseus, of Titan blood. I have your eye of the sun. I will not give it back until I reach the Gorgons. Show me the way, Grii." The old women Grii grew anxious. They sense a mortal. The old women asked Perseus, "Who is with you from among the immortals?" "No one. I am alone." The Grii cried out more loudly. They try to wake the Gorgon sisters. Their voice is carried back to the earth, to living life, to the cave of Aeolus. The Gorgons sleep. Again the Grii asked Perseus, "Why do you need the immortal sisters?" "I want to know, is there death for immortals?" The Grii fell into thought. They grew even more anxious. They sensed the cunning of the crown-eyed gods. They answer Perseus, "Only the sickle tempered in the blood of Uranus is fearsome to immortals. It severs an immortal body, but each severed part will live on its own. Under Mother Earth, beneath the island of Drepane, lies that sickle. Whoever cuts with that sickle with a mortal hand will cut himself." Suddenly, an enormous black shadow rose behind Perseus's shoulders. The goddess Pallas herself appeared in the form of a shadow. The hero does not see the goddess. The blind old women do not see the goddess. The shadow stretched out from Perseus's feet behind his back. Wherever he goes, the shadow goes too. The crown-eyed gods do not tread upon the soil of the outcast. Perseus says, "I want to look Medusa in the eyes. I will look her in the eyes and return the eye of the sun to you." The Grii say to Perseus, "He who has no cap of invisibility from Hades cannot reach the Gorgons. Medusa sleeps with her eyes open. Whoever sees her will become stone. And the cap of Hades is in the land of shades. Whoever goes there will not return." Perseus says to the Grii, "I am the son of the golden rain. On my left side, I have the adamantine sickle of Mother Earth. On me is the cap of invisibility of Hades. And on my right side, I have that which is large while being small, that which is small while being large. If I wish, I will put you inside. Show me the way to the Gorgons. I will return the eye of the sun to you." The three old women Grii fell to the ground, their heads towards one another. They groaned, as swans groan. They twined together with their arms and necks, unable to untangle themselves. The Grii say to Perseus, "To the Gorgon sisters is but a stone's throw, but the road to them goes across the ocean." The Gorgons sleep in a cave. In their sleep, without seeing, they see everything. Without hearing, they hear everything. Only once a year do they wake and fly out into the world where the gods live. Where they fly, stone pillars remain. Do not wake the Gorgons. But the winged sandals already carry Perseus up high. Behind him flies the black shadow. Perseus illuminated the unseen world with the sun eye. He looks into his shield, into the mirror of waters. What is around him? The ocean is beneath him. Rocks up to the sky. Crowds of dreams rush past into the world of living life. Night has opened the gates for them. All around is muteness. The sun of the golden rain stands. Beneath him, the air is motionless. The cold light of the sun eye glides high along the stone walls of the cliffs. Suddenly Perseus sees two unseen serpent stones. Two eyes wondrously and ferociously look into Perseus's eyes from the mirror of waters, as if piercing him with an icy wind, and there is no wind. Perseus's blood runs cold. Memory fades. The might of the half-god turns to stone, but it is still strong. The hero did not flinch. Closer, more ferocious, more enormous are the eyes. Not a monster. Three maidenly heads at the edge of a cleft in the rock lean on bronze hands. On the heads, serpents coil in clusters. They sleep. The serpents have intertwined above the open eyes. One could gaze thus for an age into the very terror of those eyes. And Perseus looks into his shield, into the mirror of waters. The sandal wings themselves carry him to those ferocious eyes. Dreams rush past. The dreams whisper to him, "Turn away, turn away." He does not turn. Perseus looks into the mirroring shield. Three Gorgons are before him, three heads side by side. In the middle are the eyes. Perseus cannot lift his hand, and in his hand is already the adamantine sickle. The eye of the Gria shines from the cap of invisibility. The black shadow of a hand lay under Perseus's hand. It enveloped the hero's strength with heat. The sickle flew up, flashed. The eyes rolled. The serpents on Medusa's head had not yet awakened. But already the black shadow of a hand seized those serpents as if by hair, raised high, exulting, the severed head, and the victory cry of the Cronaids resounded through the muteness of the ocean. Pallas had conquered. Then, of its own accord, the magic pouch opened on Perseus's side, and the fearsome head with wonder eyes vanished within it. The body is beheaded, but blood did not gush. It suddenly flared up with a wondrous flame, and amidst the flame from Medusa's body soared a white-winged horse, an unprecedented horse, light as the wind, but with the wonder eyes of Medusa, and wholly different ones, such that under the gaze of those eyes, everything dead would come alive, and a body frozen into stone would play once more with life. The horse glanced sidelong at Perseus, flapped its wings, and swept up high, towards the clouds that drifted to the peaks of Mount Helicon. And the nymphs at the horse springs learned that Pegasus was born, the son of the black-maned one, and Medusa. But the nymphs were not quick enough. Pegasus swept away to Olympus. The flame from the burning blood of the Gorgon had not yet died down, when a ray shot from the body, and the second offspring of the Gorgon, Chrysaor, the Titan golden sword, came forth after Pegasus and swept away beyond the ocean to the purple island of sunset. How did he sweep away? What was he like? Who knows? It was as if a ray broke off from the sun and fell upon the island as a giant. The serpents on the heads of the two sleeping Gorgons awakened, stood on end, and a sorrowful groan, a ringing lament poured from the throat of the sister Euryale. Pallas carried that wail away in the shell of her ear for the Muses on Olympus. The Muses will sing on the flute with the Gorgons' groan, delighting the victorious gods. The stony sleep unclasped its embraces, the Gorgons' sisters awoke, and set off in pursuit of the hero. Perseus is far away. He is above Lake Tritonis, and behind him the enormous shadow. The son of the golden rain threw his shield, the mirror of waters, from the sky into the lake, returned it to the waters. The Gorgons did not catch Perseus. The nymphs sing of the feats of the son of the golden rain. The Olympian Muses sing. The gods listen. Hordes of enemies Perseus plunged into stony sleep, turning the face of the Gorgon towards them. And about the fearsome Gorgon slayer, nightly dreams brought news to the Titans cast into Tartarus. Only dreams penetrate through the bronze walls of Tartarus. And the Titans grieved. Cronaides sank into thought. Perseus, the conqueror of Medusa. But is he the long-awaited son of Cronaides, the destroyer of the world of the Titans, about whom Gaia had prophesied to Zeus? Still ripening in the womb of Gaia are the descendants of the Titans, the Gigantes. But that son-deliverer will accomplish everything without help or payment. And Perseus? The gods helped him, Pallas and Hermes. No, he is not the deliverer. Let Pallas receive the Gorgon's head into her shield. The shatterer of the Gigantes has not yet been born. Hermes appeared before Perseus, conveyed to him the will of the gods. And the half-god hero returned to Hermes both the gifts of the Nereids, and the winged sandals, and the head of the Gorgon Medusa. Pallas fastened that terror upon her battle shield. The great battles are near. In 4 generations of heroes, Heracles will be born, and then the Gigantes and the gods of Olympus will enter the struggle. From that time on, nothing has been heard on earth about the Gorgons and the Graeae. They sleep in the cliffs with a stony sleep. The stones whisper to the sands whisper to the springs whisper to the winds, that wondrous blood drips from the immortal head of Medusa. That which drips from where the left eye is, for the salvation of men. That which drips from where the right eye is, for the destruction of men. Pallas gathered that blood into a vessel. She gifted it to the healer Asclepius, mixing the dead blood with the living, like living and dead water. And Asclepius violated the law of Ananke inevitability, began to heal the dead from death with the blood of the Gorgon Medusa. And heroes were resurrected. Of the Zmecevich and Tails. Of the Titanous snake maiden Echidna. Of the fearsome satyr Arcadian. And of the many-headed Argus Panoptes. The tail of the Titanous snake maiden Echidna. And the many-eyed Argus Panoptes. Do not believe the serpent tales that the father of the beautiful Echidna was the ancient Titan shapeshifter Pallas, who has 2 serpent tails, and that her mother was the subterranean Titanous Styx, daughter of Tartarus. The old serpents have lied about themselves. Too many coils do they weave when they lie curled in a ball, lying in wait for prey. From those cunning coils come their cunning stories. Echidna was a wonder maiden, and only by the will of the gods did she become an exile snake maiden in a subterranean cave. So the treacherous serpents invented then that the serpent-legged Pallas was her father, and the subterranean Styx was her mother. Do not believe the lying serpents. The golden sword is the father of the beautiful Echidna. The Oceanid Callirrhoe is the mother of the wonder maiden Echidna. Only Callirrhoe, the Oceanid, saw the son of Medusa, Chrysaor, called the golden sword, when she came out of the ocean waters onto the shore of the purple island of sunset, Erythea. Kalaroe bore him a daughter, the Wonder Maiden Echidna, and she herself, taking the form of a snake, nursed her in the Serpent Gorge. Kalaroe did not want the victors of the Titans, the Crown-Eyed gods, to recognize her as an Oceanid. She did not want to bear them mortal half-gods. She wanted to have Titans as children, and her daughter, the Wonder Maiden Echidna, was, like all the ancient Titanesses, immortal. The beautiful Wonder Maiden Echidna loved deep gorges and caves with high vaults somewhere near the sea or a mighty river. In those caves, in the heat, she would slumber, listening to the flow of subterranean waters. They called her the Mistress of Serpents, for she bewitched all living things with her gaze, both beasts and birds and grasses and men from the race of Titans. She would look, and one could no longer tear oneself away from the gaze of the Wonder Maiden. And her eyes were neither human, nor bestial, nor avian, but such of which they say, "Would that I had such eyes." But what those eyes were, you cannot express, though they stand right before your eyes. Sometimes, the Titaness Echidna would walk through the fields, and behind her, beasts glided through the tall grasses with silent steps, and hosts of birds swam through the sky. The beasts did not growl, did not roar, the birds did not ring, did not chirp, did not shriek. The procession was soundless. Even the flowers themselves ran out from the soil, uprooted, to meet the beautiful Wonder Maiden and, clinging to her with their fragrant breath, entwined her shins, shoulders, and chest. Dressed in flowers, she returned to her gorge, and above her, flocks of birds and the breath of all living things. The Wonder Maiden Echidna surpassed all the Titanesses in might, and the victorious gods did not touch her, and the Titans did not engage with her in wild games. They knew, it is dangerous to play with the Mistress of Serpents. She would outplay everyone, for all living things are on her side. But as soon as they caught sight of her beauty, the Titans could not endure it. Can you command your eyes? The eyes will not obey. Even the wind's heart clenched from her beauty. And what was beauty to him, the wind? He shouldn't have stood all night, pressing his windy heart to the crossroads of gorges. For he is the wind. He is passing. He is so. And yet, the mighty Wonder Maiden Titaness had no need of the protection and help of Titans, as other maiden Titanesses did, when all around were mighty gods and half-gods, abductors. Fear did not sit behind her back, as it does with a forest beast. She did not twitch her ear anxiously, did not squint her eyes around, did not flare her nostrils, drawing in the air, and the thousands of little eyes, and ears, and nostrils that live in a beast under its skin, and in its very beast's skin also did not warn Echidna amidst the daily and nightly alarms. But in heaven, the Crown-Eyed judged differently. Hera secretly watched over her, and dreaded her bewitching power. She did not dread her might, but her invincible beauty. Crown-Eyes might suddenly raise the Mistress of Serpents to the sky, to Hera's despite. Then there would be strife between them, and Hera plotted to turn the Wonder Maiden Echidna into a Snake Maiden. But who would overcome the charms of the Titaness? What sorcerer in the world is stronger than the charms of her earthly beauty? And Hera's gaze fell upon the all-seeing Argus Panoptes, upon his starry eyes. Only recently had the victorious Crown-Eyed gods risen from the soil of the earth to the firmament of heaven and stepped onto the heavenly road. The Titaness Hera then became a celestial goddess, and as a starry guardian protector over her stood the all-seeing Titan Argus Panoptes, glittering at the edge of the dark sky. The body of Argus was studded with wonder eyes, and thousands upon thousands of earthly eyes looked from the earth to the sky, at his eyes, and marveled at the wondrous mystery of their twinkling. The Titans stretched out their hands towards these fiery flowers, to pluck them from the sky and pin them to the chest of the mountains. So much had they forgotten that Argus was also a Titan. Sometimes, towards evening, after sunset, enormous Argus would lie down above the sea on a mountain ridge, and ships from afar in the open sea would see how his body twinkled, like the stars of the foremother night. Now he would wave his hand, studded with eyes, across the sky, and it seemed that starry lashes rained down from the sky. Argus was a faithful servant to Hera, and the Mistress of the Sky said to him, "Bewitch the Titaness Echidna, and hide her away in the gloom. Let Crown-Eyes forget about her, and all living things." Argus flashed his golden lashes. He glanced at the sea and at the land, and appeared in the evening on a distant hill to the Wonder Maiden. Echidna stood before the entrance to the cave and saw a starry blanket spread over the slope of the hill, over the tops of pines and firs, and it seemed his stars were flowing down to her cave. Thus every evening Argus appeared to her on the hill, always in the same place, and each evening the Wonder Maiden involuntarily raised her eyes to the hill, admiring the unprecedented twinkling. Argus decided first to bewitch her from afar with the starry glitter of his innumerable eyes, arousing in the earthly enchantress Echidna curiosity and wonder before the heavenly sorcerer. Argus wanted to astonish the Wonder Maiden, and already she eagerly awaited him. But one night, he stood above her valley on a ledge of the mountain and directed his gaze upon the beautiful Titanus. Not a gaze, but thousands of eyes. And all those thousands of eyes were for her a single gaze. And that lunar night came to earth when Argus descended to the very cave where Echidna went in expectation of dawn, and he sang at the entrance to the cave a song of the heavens, which only the round dances of star Titanuses sing. With this starry song, Argus entered the Wonder Maiden's cave. On a bed of flowers and grasses, with open eyes, the Titanus lay and listened to the invisible starry choir. And then the starry sounds began to enter her world as a sparkling body. The sounds twinkled in the cave. Were these truly the very stars that sang there, beyond the threshold? They shine, and she cannot tear her eyes from these stars. Closer the stars, brighter, more alluring. Already they are above the Titanus. To the right, to the left, they flow towards her in starry rays. Already they burn so close and invincibly. Cold is their glitter and mysterious, but the Titanus does not feel this. She is all in heat, as if within her is the fire of the bowels of Mother Earth. And she hears a voice above her. I descended to you, Wonder Maiden. I twinkled above the mountain ridges for you, spread a starry blanket for you over the forest to clothe you with it, Titanus. I stood before you in rays on the hill above the valley, sang the song of the heavens for you, and for the world before your cave. Titanus, Argus is with you. And the voice of Argus was not like the voices of springs and leaves, grasses and birds, beasts and winds that were familiar to her. With the voice of nightly rays, Argus Panoptes spoke to her. In vain that night did Luna Selene wait for Argus, hiding behind the hill. Now she peeps out stealthily, now she hides, now she peeps out again. Argus is not there. He does not come out of the cave. What drink did the goddess Hera give the ruler of the world for the night? The god of sleep, Morpheus, emptied his horn with the poppy potion into Zeus's goblet and hastily hid himself in the mist by the ocean. Cronides sank into sleep, hears nothing, sees nothing. From that night, the starry sorcerer Argus visited the beautiful Titanus in the cave more than once, and imperceptibly he himself succumbed to the charms of her beauty. Already, even the heavenly one was drawn by the earthly force emanating from the Titanus, like fragrance from a flower. And he plotted to take her to the sky, to the world of gods and stars. But one does not ascend from earth to heaven in the darkness of night. And Argus appeared before the Wonder Maiden in the bright morning, stretched out his hands to her, and said, To the sky of the gods I will raise you, Titanus. You will dwell there, like the gods, with me. The Titanus looked at Argus and was silent. Hosts of songbirds hung over her in the morning air. Hosts of beasts stood around her on the merry grasses, and flowers entwined her waist, caressing her. Is it you, Argus? Asked the Wonder Maiden in surprise. Where are your shining stars and their songs? Pale, dim, you stand before me, speckled with gloomy pupils, as if all eaten away by fuzzy caterpillars. Are these your golden lashes? And it is so cold near you, Argus. But the earth is so warm. No, you are not Argus. Step away from me, deceiver, or I will hurl you onto that cloud. And Argus left her for a dark gorge. Zeus Cronide saw all this. He heard the words of the Titanus, himself hidden behind a cloud. He divined Hera's plot, and Cronides pondered where he could hide the Titanus from the eyes of Hera and the all-seeing Argus. And then the son of night, Momus the scoffer, whose advice the gods heeded, whispered to him, Hide her in a subterranean cave, under a rock above Tartarus, at the edge of the earth. Deep are the caves there. Argus will not see her there. And Momus, the son of night, truthful through falsehood superscript 1, smirked. Hera, too, pondered about the Titanus. She has bewitched her most faithful heavenly guardian himself. She will bewitch Cronides as well. She is mighty, and her beauty is mighty. If all her might were turned into hatred for Cronides, she would then become an ally to Hera. But Argus deceived the Titanus. Now she will hate Hera for the deception of her guardian, Argus, and out of hatred for her will enter into an alliance with Zeus. Where could the Wonder Maiden be banished, so that Zeus could not find her and forget about her? And the scoffer Momus whispered to Hera, Hide her in a subterranean cave, under a rock above Tartarus, at the edge of the earth. Zeus will not go there for her. She will no longer be a rival to you. Only wingless dragon serpents crawl there. There, in the darkness of the earth, she too will become a serpent. And Momus, the son of night, truthful through falsehood, smirked. Hera said to Zeus, The Titanus Wonder Maiden has bewitched the starry Argus. Superscript 1 The all-despising Momus, son of night and god of Olympus, in the tales recognizes falsehood as the sole truth of the world order and life, and therefore considers that he who lies is the most truthful of all. The cunning advice of Momus to the gods was wise and at the same time ruinous not only for Titans and mortals, but for the gods themselves. The stars of his eyes have dimmed and will no longer gladden the world of the gods as before. Banish her from living life. Zeus was surprised at Hera's words. He knew wherein the treachery lay hidden. But he himself had already decided thus and could not reverse her fate. He said, "Let Argus fulfill it." And Argus carried the sleeping Titaness away at night into a cave above Tartarus, at the edge of the earth. For a long time the Titaness slept. She woke, as always, in a cave. But this is not that cave by the sea. The rays of day do not steal into it. Little breezes do not carry into it the fragrances of grasses, the singing of birds, and living voices. The cave is soundless, gloom and cold within it. It inclines the Titaness to sleep. And the Wonder Maiden fell asleep again. Truly, she must have slept like that for an age. And through her sleep, Echidna hears from the subterranean depth under the rock the groan of the ancient Titans cast down into Tartarus. She wants to rise and hasten to their aid, and she cannot. She looked down at her legs. What is wrong with them? Why is knee so tightly pressed to knee, and shin to shin, and foot to foot, and her thighs so squeezed? Why has the skin upon them silvered with scales? In anguished foreboding, she embraced her legs with her arms. But are they legs? Her titanous legs turned into a luxuriant dragon tail, enormous, almost up to the waist, and they are covered with an iron shell. The Wonder Maiden became a snake maiden. At first, the Titaness could not believe it. She lunged, to stand up on her free Titan legs and run out of the cave. But she only raised herself to her waist, when her mighty body sank powerlessly to the ground. She could no longer walk upon the earth. Echidna cried out frightfully, with such a lament of a mighty body and a mighty soul that it seemed at such a cry the stars themselves would fall from the sky and come to her aid. But nothing stirred, neither in the sky nor on earth. Only somewhere beneath her, in the depths of the earth, a distant, muffled barking was heard, and after the barking, a whining and growling. It was the dog Cerberus at the entrance to Hades responding to the pitiful night cry. From that night, Echidna became a prisoner of her subterranean cave, and if before they called her Wonder Maiden, now they called her Snake Maiden. That is the origin of her name Echidna, Viper. Echidna sat in the gloom of her cave prison, and a longing grew in her for the free world, for the distant expanses and proud mountains, for the hot rays of Helios the Titan, for the beasts and birds of the earth. And all her Titan will slowly melted down into this mighty longing. It seemed to her that from this unbridled longing wings would grow on her, and she would fly out of her subterranean dungeon, as winged dragons fly out. And then, the Snake Maiden would stretch her arms upward, her titanous arms, languishing with the dream of freedom. And suddenly her longing would fill with hatred, such hatred for the crown-eyed gods, and for the treacherous Hera, who had imprisoned her in the subterranean gloom. And why had she not entered the struggle with the goddess? Why did Hera deprive her of motherhood? She is lonely in the cold gloom. Can the gods truly be so cruel? But at times it seemed to the mighty Snake Maiden that the gods were like little children before her. She would embrace Cronaides himself like a child. She would cradle the ruler of the world in her arms. What was Zeus before her? A little one, a babe. His lightnings would be quenched in her life, giving mother's milk. Argus Panoptes had deceived her, and Echidna sent curses to the stars, hating them and pining for them. Oh, if only a ray of Luna Selene would peek into her, in this cave's gloom. Did the Titaness Selene not love her before? And in her anguish, Echidna turned with a prayer to Mother Gaia Earth. Give me back, Mother, my feet. Give me back my maidenly shins. Let my knee bend once more. Take from me this serpent tail. It pulls me into your depths. It is heavy for me. But Gaia Earth was silent. The tale of the shell of Egipan, and of the flight of the mountain titans. The she-goat Aga, the nurse of Zeus, was a marvel, but even more marvelous was her kid, the milk brother of Zeus, nicknamed Egipan. Once, on the seashore, he found an unprecedented shell. He blew into it and dropped it from joy. Such a sound burst from the shell. Another would have been frightened, but Egipan rejoiced. In an instant, all the birds scattered. All the beasts rushed to flee, who knows where. Even the fish dived to the very bottom. What a shell! Egipan picked it up from the ground, blew into it once more, and went deaf. And so he began to blow into it, and blow, and blew until the stones themselves started to fight with him. The trumpeter looked around and sees. All the trees around lie flat on the ground. The grasses have begun to grow back into the earth, and the waves are fleeing in leaps from the seashore into the open sea. Egipan peered into the empty depth of the sea by the shore, trumpeted into the shell and guffaws. All sorts of claws started rushing about the sea bottom, looking for somewhere to hide, bumping into each other, and look, crab upon crab, backing up, crawls over one another. Wherever you look, everywhere all sorts of two-clawed, three-clawed, five-clawed creatures goggle their eyes at you. What a sound! Egipan trumpeted into the clouds, and the cloudy cows rushed headlong like a hurricane across the sky. The grayish cows turned black from running. Egipan is glad. He galloped on his goat legs with the shell to the young Zeus in the cave. Says, Now let's drive out the mountain titans. I'll blow into this shell, and all the titans will take flight." As he said, so it happened. Young Zeus raised a call on the mountains. Crowds of titans gathered at the call. Zeus says to them, "Go down from the mountains into the lowlands of the gorges. Your truth is not needed by the earth. The world needs my strength. If you do not come down from the mountains yourselves, you will flee from them senselessly." The mighty titans listened to Zeus. Stern is their race. They said, "Our thunder titanesses are more frightful than your threats. Their strength would suffice for you. We, however, will run from the mountains up to the sky. It will not fall to you. Solar titans have lived upon it since ancient times." The 3-year-old god answered them, "You are blind, but my strength is not for the blind, but for the sighted. Wrestle first with my milk brother." And Cronides departed. Then Egipan put the shell to his lips and trumpeted. As soon as the titans heard the sound of the shell, they blindly rushed into flight, hid themselves in the lowest depths of the gorges. Young Zeus overcame the mountain titans without battle. His path to the sky became free. And the titans called Egipan the fearsome Pan. That it is, the panic of the titans. And in Arcadia, they called him the fearsome satyr. The tale of the Titaness. Snake maiden Echidna. And the fearsome satyr of Arcadia. The snake maiden Echidna learned to crawl out of the misty cave and, catching hold with her dragon tail and hands on the stones, to climb to the peak of the sheer cliff above Tartarus. The snake maiden gazes into the distance of living life. All around is haze. Only at times does the reflection of sunset lie upon the haze. And if a half-god hero strays then to the edge of the earth, he sees in the unattainable distance a wondrous maiden on the cliff, and beneath her, as if a dragon sleeps, coiled into a ball. The snake maiden follows the steps of the hero with her eyes, but he passes by, towards the shores of the ocean. He will not hear her call, will not reach her, will not climb the cliff above Tartarus. And yet what a heart for him the snake maiden Echidna has. Once, the titan Helios bathed his solar steeds in the waters of the ocean at evening time and forgot on the shore the crown of the sun. The distant cliffs, deserts, and roads were illuminated from the earth by the slanting rays of the crown, and in the uncertain evening light, Echidna saw a wondrous wanderer. She looked closer and recognized in him the fearsome satyr of Arcadia, Egipan. And she had yearned so much for anything alive that she even rejoiced at the bogey. Was it not searching for her across the world? And the bogey saw Echidna. It guffawed, whistled, howled, ululated, and such an unprecedented day came about then that his voice reached Echidna. She answered the voice with her voice. For the first time in the long age of her cave imprisonment, it resounded in the stillness of dead life. Echidna was frightened by its sound. It was as if a hyena of the desert, and not the Titaness wonder maiden, had answered the fearsome satyr. And she recalled their long-ago meeting. Once, while still completely young, Echidna wandered into Arcadia and noticed above her in a clearing a creature she had never seen before. A forest pan sits on a giant stump and cleans a wondrous shell. Such shells had never come her way on the seashore. And Pan does not sit alone. Next to him, something like a goat, something like a dragon on goat legs, and it has 2 more lion paws and a lion mane on its nape. And yet next to them, as if someone third, a snake twined itself around Pan and the goat dragon and watches with serpent eyes as Pan cleans the shell. Pan looked through the shell at the sun, handed it to the serpent head, and suddenly saw the Titaness. All 3 sprang up at once from the stump, Pan, and the goat dragon, and the lion serpent. The Titaness marvels. There are not 3 of them at all, but just one enormous, shaggy, red-maned bogey. And all 3 are situated upon it. It is both Pan, and the goat dragon, and the lion serpent. Then how this unseen bogey rushed from above down the mountain path towards the Titaness. In front, Pan, behind, a serpent. But this is the satyr of Arcadia. The fearless wonder maiden laughed. She decided to amuse herself with the bogey. Let the ridiculous satyr chase after her. And the satyr had already run down the mountain. He is very close to the Titaness. How swift the beast is. How frightful the mug. The beasts, birds, and grasses saw that the fearsome satyr was chasing the wonder maiden, and they give way to the runners. Well, 2 titans are playing with each other. Let them amuse themselves. But when the fearsome satyr began to catch up with the wonder maiden, the beasts, birds, and grasses guessed that it was not a game before them, but a chase, that the Titaness had fallen into misfortune. There is no beast in the world more frightful than the fearsome satyr. They all rose up in defense of the wonder maiden. They grew up as a wall between the Titaness and the satyr. The satyr does not retreat. Then the beasts rushed at him with fangs, hooves, horns. The grasses catch his legs and nooses, the birds claw and peck him. All this is nothing to the monster. It tramples, tears, beats, stings every living thing in the world. It would have caught up with the wonder maiden. But just as the wonder maiden noticed that the satyr was trampling and beating all living things, she turned to face him. She stopped. Menacing is the mighty Titanus. Not every god would stand athwart her path. She thought, should she not bind the satyr with the charms of her beauty? The enchantress looked at him. Her beauty is of no use against the satyr. He rushed at her at full tilt. The Titanus took up the fight. She seized the satyr by the horn with her hand, bent his human head to the ground. She looks, a new head is before her, but no longer human, but a maw on a serpent neck, and it holds in its teeth the wondrous shell. The Titanus squeezed the serpent neck with her other hand, bent the second head to the ground as well. But already the curved dragon tail had whipped up, it wraps around the torso of the Wonder Maiden, and two lion paws with a goat's muzzle threaten her, and the tufts of the red hide breathe venom upon her. And now the serpent head crawled out of the maw, turned towards the Wonder Maiden, and already it has that shell in its mouth. The Titanus holds the satyr, wants to break his strength, but the satyr is immortal, the milk brother of Zeus. He twists, writhes, spins like a wheel. She cannot hold his heads forever. What is this? It was not venom that sprayed from the serpent mouth where the shell was, but a strange sound. That sound keeps growing, keeps strengthening, ever more piercing, ever more unbearable. The Titanus no longer hears it. It already cuts into her like a knife, tears the breath from her mouth, eats away her eyes, strips her skin, kills her. The mighty Titanus could not endure it. She released the heads of the fearsome satyr from her hands, tore his dragon tail away from herself, and rushed to run, covering her ears with her palms. Never had anyone fled from anyone like that, neither titans nor gods. And the satyr, having tossed the shell from the serpent mouth into his human mouth, blew trumpeted even harder. He stands trumpeting and guffawing. And how? The Titanus runs headlong. It is not the satyr bogey that chases the Titanus, but the sound bogey. And then all living, bestial things, maddened with terror, rushed away from the satyr like a hurricane. And most madly of all, the herds of bulls fled. There was a hollow there with high sheer walls, where now a fiery lake lies. They say that the fearsome satyr once drove mountain titans into this hollow with the sound of his shell. Cronides hurled a lightning bolt from his thunderbolt at them. Like a forge bellows, the fearsome sound fanned the lightning in flight into a great flame, and the immortal titans began to burn in this flame. The flame spread over them as a fiery lake, covered them, and the titans burn in this lake, and do not burn up. Truly, they are of the solar race of the Heliades. No few maddened herds, driven by the cruel trumpeter, threw themselves into this lake. And after them, free beasts and birds fell into it. The scorched earth there turned into a desert. And they said that this was a descent into the netherworld. Cronides saw the struggle of the Wonder Maiden with the fearsome satyr and her super mighty strength. He also saw her flight from the sound. As if blind, the Titanus rushed towards the fateful lake and would have thrown herself into it, had not Cronides taken the form of an enormous serpent and stood in her path. The coils of the serpent twined around the body and legs of the Titanus, stopping her ruinous flight. The sound fell silent. Then the mistress of serpents looked into the eyes of the savior serpent. She recognized him at once as a god. And under the gaze of the Wonder Maiden, the serpent loosened his coils. Even the might of Cronides yielded to the strength of her gaze. Again the Titanus stands free, and before her, on a mighty tail, the serpent shapeshifter has reared up. The serpent said to the Wonder Maiden, "Bear me a half-god hero, who would be mightier than any titan." The Wonder Maiden answered the serpent, "Take the shell from the fearsome satyr and give it to me. All living things perish from its frightful sound. Give it to me, and then the Titanus will trust Cronides." But Zeus Cronides could not give the frightful shell to the Titanus and make her stronger than the entire living world on earth. And the Titanus rejected the Lord of the sky. He could have incinerated her, but he could not overcome her titan heart. This is what the Snake Maiden recalled on the peak of the cliff. But she did not know what happened afterwards. And an unheard of matter occurred. Hera hated the fearsome satyr, who had ruined the mountain titans. And when Cronides ascended to the sky, Hera said to him, "Egipan is too strong with his shell. Someday he will make even the gods flee. Take this toy from him." Cronides knew that Egipan would never give up that shell that had conquered the titans. But he answered Hera cunningly, "Send Argus. Let him take the shell from the satyr." And the starry Argus appeared before Hera. "Take the shell from the fearsome satyr," Hera commanded, "and give it to me. Let its trumpet sound fall silent. Zeus is strong enough as it is. Why trumpet to the glory of fierce malice, terrorizing herds and titans? But will you find him, Panoptes?" The many-eyed Argus answered, "I will see him." And the eyes of Argus found the satyr. He sat on the edge of a cliff above the sea, his goat legs dangling towards the sea, and wandered with his human goat serpent eyes over the land, sea, and sky, seeking out whom he could terrify. The starry Argus looked with his innumerable eyes at the fearsome satyr Egipan and saw him entirely and everything within him. He saw every little hair of his, and his ferocity, and greed, and malice, cunning, and mockery. It was as if he had torn off his shaggy hide and laid bare his innards. Argus saw the triple soul, and the triple thoughts, and all the triple falseness of Egipan. The satyr wanted to hide into his hide, but from above, below, from the sides, from the front, and from the back, from everywhere the eyes of Argus looked at him, and there was nowhere for the bogey to hide. He was entirely exposed to those starry eyes. The fierce dragon satyr was stupefied, confounded. He dropped from his hands the shell that emitted the terrifying sound, and the shell fell into the sea. But it is dangerous even for starry eyes to look too intently at another's malice. You drag it into the light, but it will no longer leave you alone. It will latch on, eat into you, crawl under your skin. Evil is contagious, and the reflection of the dark, evil power of the satyr entered into Argus, and from that night, Argus himself became different. His eyes glittered starry as before, but they no longer shone, twinkling, but disturbed the earth from the height of the sky with a bloody gleam. Before, he had carried out the terrible commands of Hera without knowing whether he was doing evil or good and whom he served, gods or titans. He shone for living life and guarded the goddess of the sky. But after the encounter with the fearsome satyr, he grew to love the terrible deeds of the gods and saw beauty and strength in them. It seemed to the all-seeing Argus Panoptes that the beauty and strength of evil was the highest good and blessing. Now the groans of the titans chained by the gods did not touch his heart. Argus forgot that he was also a titan, only a titan raised to the sky. He became the executor of the cruel commands of the gods. He began to despise from the height of the heavens the ordinary good and evil that lives on earth, as something lower. He despised also the tears of earthly sorrows, and tender pity, and gentleness, and childish joy, looking at them as the stars look at the dim twinkling of fireflies and rotting wood. Argus returned to the sky of the Cronaids, and the fallen shell was swallowed in the sea by a large fish. And the fearsome satyr Egipan trudged to the edge of the world to seek that fish and his wondrous shell. He did not find the shell anywhere, but he found at the edge of the earth the snake maiden Echidna. Echidna did not know that the satyr had lost his shell. She thought, "With me will be the satyr, with me will also be the fearsome sound. I will blow at the sky, and then the Cronaids will flee from the sky and Olympus to the earth. The Titans will ascend to the sky. I will blow at my serpent tail, and the serpent skin will flee from it. The tail will again turn into the free legs of Etitanus." The snake maiden deceived herself. The tale of the slaying of the fearsome satyr of Arcadia, and the Titanous snake maiden Echidna, by the many-eyed Argus Panoptes. In the gloom of the caves above Tartarus, the snake maiden and the fearsome satyr lived together. And from the anguish of loneliness, even the satyr seemed beautiful to the snake maiden. They were both half-serpents. The satyr breathed fierce malice and cunning, and his ferocity flowed into Echidna's heart. But it did not remain there. She began to give birth to children in the subterranean cave from the fearsome satyr. To them she passed on his ferocity. The children of Echidna were monsters. She brought forth, as an inheritance from the lion part of the satyr, a lion dragon, a man-eater, called the Nemean lion. She brought forth, as an inheritance from the serpent part of the satyr, the many-headed hydra, called the Lernaean serpent. But her firstborn was the chimera. The winged chimera was born as a tiny creature. She sparkled with the beauty of the starry Argus and terrified with the ugliness of the fearsome satyr. She was both a wonder and a monster. And Echidna loved her, as a shell loves the pearl hidden within it, and admired how the unseen creature fluttered around the cave, glittering with the iridescence of mother-of-pearl scales. Echidna hid her children from the eyes of the gods. She awaited the great battle of the gods with the Gigantes, the subterranean offspring of the Titans. But the goddess Hera found out about everything. Hera said to Cronaids, "Are not the children of Echidna and the satyr of Titan blood? Are they not dangerous to the gods with their might and hatred? Take them from Echidna." Zeus said to her, "Take them and amuse yourself with them." And Hera decided to steal from Echidna her beloved daughter, Chimera. But whom does this daughter, sparkling both in the night gloom and in the daylight, take after? The goddess knew. She could not steal Chimera while the immortal Egipan was alive. The satyr guards his monsters. The fearsome satyr must be killed, but Zeus would not allow it. And Hera asked Momus for advice. Momus the scoffer said to her, "Gift the satyr a shell, similar in appearance to the one he lost. He will not trumpet it near the cave. By Echidna's word, he will want to free the ancient subterranean Titans and descend to them in Tartarus, to raise them with the fearsome sound. Then Cronaids will fly into a rage and hand Egipan over to you. Only make the shell soundless." And Momus, the son of night, truthful through falsehood, smirked. Egipan found on the peak of the cliff above Tartarus a shell. He recognized it as his lost one, but he did not trumpet it, so as not to frighten Echidna. And everything came to pass according to the word of Momus. Egipan descended into Tartarus. He blew into the shell before the bronze gates where the 100-handed ones, the guardians of the Titans, sat. But the fearsome sound did not resound. The bronze walls did not collapse. The ancient Titans did not rise. The fearsome satyr returned to the cave. But Hera rushed to Cronides. She said, Egipan found his shell. With the fearsome sound, he wanted to raise the Titans in Tartarus and return to them power over the world. Zeus flew into a rage. He forgot that Egipan is his milk brother, that the satyr had gifted him victory over the mountain Titans. He thundered, let Egipan be without his hide and his head. For in his youth, Zeus himself had flayed the goatskin Aegis with the head bogey from his living nurse Aga, the mother of Egipan. And Zeus gave his consent to Hera for the killing of the fearsome satyr. Again Hera summoned the starry Argus. She said, Echidna hates everything heavenly. She rejected you. She gives birth to monster Titans from the fearsome satyr Egipan for the coming battles with the gods. Steel Chimera from the Snake Maiden. The sparkling wonder, like you, is your child. I myself will raise her. But first, kill the fearsome satyr. The fierce eyes of Argus flashed, and then dimmed. As soon as you steal Chimera, appear, Argus, to lunar Selene, and tell her to lead the lion dragon from Echidna's cave. Let her hide him in Nemea. They will say later that he fell from the moon to earth. He will yet serve us a service. And the many-headed Hydra will swim away from Echidna herself. We will scatter the whole serpent nest. You love to sparkle at sunset. So go to the sunset, to the Snake Maiden. And Hera gave Argus the magic sickle of Mother Gaia, with the words, kill and steal. The many-eyed Argus listened to the goddess in silence. The gleam of his eyes was cold and bloody, and their twinkling from the blinking of golden lashes was deceptive. The starry Argus, guardian of Hera, had become different after the encounter with the fearsome satyr. He carried out all that she commanded. With the sickle of Gaia, he cleaved Egipan in two as he rested on the peak of the cliff, and he cast both halves of his body into Tartarus. And then he stole Chimera. At that time, the Snake Maiden was still nursing Chimera at her breast. Chimera still fluttered as a wondrous, tiny creature around the cave in the gloom on transparent wings. And Argus began to lure the wondrous butterfly away from the cave, blinking with the golden lashes of his innumerable eyes. He caught her in a golden net of rays and handed her over to Hera. The goddess hid Chimera in a secret refuge. The lion dragon also disappeared from the cave. Selene enticed him with a lunar smile to the mountains of Nemea. All yellow, he had never seen a creature of the color of lion's gold. And suddenly he saw. The Titaness Luna Selene rolls at the edge of the heavens a golden disk and beckons the young lion with a lunar smile. The color of the disk cannot be distinguished from his lion paws. The lion skipped after the rolling lunar disk and did not return to the cave. The Hydra, too, did not return to the cave. Again Echidna remained alone in the misty cave. Again she crawled out, half maiden, half serpent, to the peak of the cliff. The milk in her breast turned to venom, and it fell in black drops upon the stone. Only venomous serpents, crawling to her from the desert, sometimes clung to her maternal breast and sucked the fierce food, left undrunk by the little Chimera. Now then, from country to country across the land of half-god heroes, frightful tales crawled about the cave-dwelling man-eater, about the beautiful monster Snake Maiden, living beyond the distant sea. It was said that she lay in wait for daring seafarer heroes who had suffered shipwreck by the seashores, lured them to her cave, enticing them with her beauty, and when the weary heroes fell asleep, she would cradle them, humming bewitching songs, and then devour them. It was said that she fed children in the subterranean cave with black venom and raised them to be avengers of mortals. Mothers and wives cursed her, and no one on earth knew of the maternal grief of Echidna for her little daughter, stolen from her, for the beautiful Chimera, sparkling like Argus. Only Argus the thief knew. Once, he peered into the cave of the Snake Maiden, illuminated the cave with the radiance of starry rays, and saw her sleeping. And in such maternal sorrowful beauty did the sleeping captive Echidna appear that his starry eyes dimmed for a moment, and the fierce Argus, the heavenly handsome one, vanished in the darkness. It did not escape Hera's eyes that the eyes of her faithful guardian had grown dimmer, that Panoptes was concealing something to himself, and was ever more often hurrying away to the sunset. There he lay down on a mountain ridge and gazed, twinkling, somewhere into the distance, towards the ocean. The goddess guessed where he was looking. The cold Argus languished with starry longing for the mistress of serpents. And Hera decided to tear from his Titan soul the charms of the beauty of the Snake Maiden Titaness. Is the beauty of an exiled Titaness truly stronger than the majestic beauty of the goddess of the sky? Will the loyalty of her friend guardian truly yield to his starry longing? Is she not, Hera, the ruler of Olympus? And what in the world is stronger than power? Beauty? The Snake Maiden must perish. Hera will win back her faithful guardian. And Hera appeared before Zeus. She said, The tribe of Gigantes stirs in the womb of Mother Gaia Earth. They were born of the dark, rebellious malice of the Titans cast down into Tartarus. But on Earth, too, the strength of birth of the rebellious, unsubmissive Titans has not dried up. In the gloom of caves, at the edge of the earth, they engender serpent offspring to aid the Gigantes, dragon monsters with immortal limbs. And among them, the most fruitful is the Titaness snake maiden Echidna. She is an enchantress, stronger than any Titan. Even a god will not overcome her. From subterranean depths under the feet of the mountains, the 100-handed fire-breathing son of the depths, Typhoeus, comes to her. And she raises the fierce serpent tribe of the Echiones. Not blood is in their veins, but scorching lava. They are incomparably mightier than the gods. Guard yourself, Chronites. Better tear out the very root of births. Their mother, the snake maiden, is immortal. But even for immortals, there is death. Zeus nodded his head, and Hera appeared before Argus. She did not summon him, as she used to. She herself appeared at his resting place at sunset. And the mistress of the sky told him the black news of the earth. How Echidna devours the heroes who fall asleep, having deceived their courage with her beauty. But Argus was silent, and the gleam of his eyes was even colder than before. Hera said, "The snake maiden is the evil of the earth and the gods. Starry Argus, the daughter of the earth, rejected you. Her serpent charms are dangerous." And again Hera commanded Argus, "Deceive and kill." Again she gave him the magic sickle of Mother Gaia, which was stronger than the immortality of the Titans, to sever with it the maiden's body from her serpent body. Indifferently, Argus took the sickle. Only for a moment did one of his eyes in the middle of his high forehead, like the vault of the sky, flash fiercely. And, lowering his starry lashes, he swept away to the ocean. Night, the cliff, and the cave near the ocean. What is that light at its threshold? Who are you, guest? And the dragon's tail barred the way to the newcomer. Argus blinded Echidna for a moment. Her eyes had grown unaccustomed to radiance. And the captive hears a voice. "I am a Titan, like you, Titaness. I have come to return you to the earth, to the living life of Titans and heroes. The birds call you. The beasts and grasses call. Beyond the threshold of the cave are winged winds. Above the threshold are hot stars. In the springs and streams, the naiads await you, and in the fields and meadows, the merry nymphs. Rise, trust the Titan. The winds will carry you to the garden of the Hesperides. There you will taste the golden apple of Gaia, and your serpent tail will fall away. Free legs will grow back upon you, and you will wash them in the spring of immortality with ambrosial moisture. By the spring, our brother, the dragon-laden, waits for you. Titaness, rise to meet the messenger of the Titans. I bring you freedom, snake maiden." And Argus sang. But not a starry song, but a song of the earth the guest sang, and the anguish of the captive Titaness for freedom greedily drank in that song. At the threshold of the cave, stars twinkled. Arched like a bow, the enormous dragon tail stirred menacingly, barring the way for the newcomer, and the eyes of the snake maiden looked at the guest from the gloom. The singer's voice was seductive, and then the dragon's tail began quietly to move aside, opening the way. A tender whisper full of charms passed through the cave. "I recognized your golden lashes, Argus." Did the serpentine wisdom of the snake maiden betray her, and had she believed the seducer a second time? Or did she answer cunning with cunning? Who knows? And who knows? Did Argus wish to deceive her, or did his starry longing answer the earthly longing of the Titaness? Argus stepped, and towards his starry lashes stretched the hands of the snake maiden, the mightiest of the Titan race. Another step Argus took towards the Titaness, and suddenly the dragon tail lashed upward and twined around the starry body of Hera's guardian. It squeezed him as the pre-storm oppresses the day with suffocation and torment. What is this that flashed like an adamant gleam in the half-gloom? What groan split the stones of the cave? At Argus's feet, a headless, enormous worm, the dragon tail, slid down and fell still, shuddering, upon the stone. And then the thousands of eyes flared up fiercely, and their twinkling was bloody above the motionless torso of the Wonder Maiden, severed from its serpent half. Argus vanished. Luna Selene peered into the cave, turned pale, and fell, numb, into the night ocean. The tale of the lunar sickle, and the execution of the many-eyed Argus. By Hermes at the command of Zeus. Hera set the many-eyed Argus as guardian over the river nymph Io, having turned Io into a half-maiden half-heifer, so that she could not bear a half-god hero to Zeus. And then Zeus commanded the god Hermes to cut off the head of the many-eyed Argus. Argus was immortal, and the magic earthly sickle of Gaia Earth was powerless before the starry Titan. Hermes needed a heavenly sickle. Hermes flew to the edge of the earth, to the ocean, where by day the Titaness Luna Selene hides with her lunar horses. The trickster Hermes says to Selene Moon, "The many-eyed Argus killed your favorite, the fearsome satyr, darken the heart of the gods with the satyr's death. Give me for one night and one day your shining lunar sickle. You are beautiful, Selene, more beautiful than all the daytime goddesses. Yet you are pale. And though you are wondrously pale, to the envy of the nightly shades, still you are pale. The shades stretch towards you, but they can never reach you. They grow pale themselves. But what would you be with a blush? Give me your shining sickle, and I will make you rosy, like Eos dawn. Selene knows that Hermes is false and cunning, that he takes his words from a pot of honey, and his deeds from those words he plunges into a pot of black bile. And yet the words of the flatterer caress Selene. And how could she, a Titaness goddess, not give the sickle to the messenger of Cronides, the Olympian? Selene gave Hermes her shining lunar sickle, and remained herself with just the crown with a little bottom. She launched it, like a disk, onto the heavenly night road, and, springing from the waters of the ocean astride her lunar horse, at full gallop caught up with the crown and showed its bottom to the world. Round, tender, flat, not at all like the shining lunar sickle. That one is mocking and sharp. Only answer its call, and it will cut out your heart in an instant. The deceiver. Hermes took the lunar sickle, wrapped it in his Phrygian cap, and rushed off to the many-eyed Argus. Hermes is cunning, sly, but Argus is also a cruel deceiver. He looked right through Hermes with his eyes. Does he have the sickle of Gaia with him? The guardian of the heifer maiden was on guard. He did not see the sickle of Gaia on Hermes, but he noticed something shines under the Phrygian cap. Argus asked Hermes, "What is that shining under your cap?" Hermes answers, "That is my shepherd's songs shining. Selene Moon gave them to me. She sings them to the lunar cows. Fine are the lunar herds of Selene. Her cows are like your white heifer. You are now a shepherd. Do you want me to teach you Selene's shepherd songs?" Hermes took out the lunar sickle, brought it to his mouth, as if the sickle were not a sickle, but a syrinx pipe. Blinded with the radiance of the sickle, Argus panoptes with all his starry eyes, and the cunning Hermes began to sing the song of deceptive dreams. He alone among the celestials knew the songs of deceptive dreams, since he could descend into the kingdom of night, where the dreams lived. Hermes sang, and the many-eyed Argus began to fall asleep under the songs of dreams. One eye after another closed on his body. Their golden lashes quivered slightly, blinking, and only one eye still flickered faintly, now flaring up, now dying out. Finally, it too dimmed and closed. Then the sickle of Selene shone in the hand of the god Hermes high above the head of the sleeping one, instantly descended, and cut off the head of the sleeping Argus. The head flew off, and for an instant the eyes all over the body of the starry Titan opened, flashed wondrously, and began, dimming, to go out, yielding to the radiance of the lunar sickle. But Hera did not let them fade completely. Suddenly she appeared with a flock of white peacocks. The goddess tore the eyes of Argus from the beheaded body, beckoned her favorite white peacock with a long-tailed train, and scattered over its tail these eyes. And then the eyes of Argus began to play on the bird feathers of the peacock's tail with blue and green rainbows. When on that night the Titans and half-god heroes looked at the sky, there were no stars in the sky. Only an enormous white peacock, all in rainbow eyes on the plumage of its luxuriant tail, slowly flew, glittering, like an unknown comet across the sky, and the path of its flight twinkled behind it. Tales of the brothers, of Faraday, and of the Dioscuri, the tale of the frenzied Idas, and of the river nymph Marpessa. Do not ask, guest, in mountainous Messenia, do not ask, even in mountainous Aetolia, who Idas is. The inhabitants of the mountains and narrow valleys will turn away from you, as from a dark stranger, and no one will let you into a cave, nor ferry you across the fierce Euenus. It is not for a human voice to utter who Idas is. And if you have come from distant Scythia, an unknown land, and truly have not heard of Idas, then bend over the chasm of Taygetus, or press your ear to the chest of the mountain at Epope, and ask them who Idas is. The chasm will breathe, it will rumble in the chest of the mountain, and you will hear, distant guest, that which only stones and or in the depths can utter. From Euenus, the daughter Euenes, the nymph Marpessa. From Aphareus, the sons of Faraday, Lynceus, the sharp-sighted seer, and Idas, the immensely furious. Everything in Idas is immense, his body, his desires, his courage, and his thought. But most immense in Idas is his love for the nymph Marpessa. So immense was this love and so furious, as a volcano is immense and furious, spewing out at once flame, and lava, and stones, and ash. So immense was this love that if it had fallen out of Idas's heart onto the earth, even Idas himself could not lift it from the ground and put it back into his heart. Sooner could one lift the whole mass of the ridges of Olympus and Taygetus than such a love. Oh, and how the river nymph Marpessa danced in the round dance of her nymph companions. The waterfall dances, it cannot dance enough. The thunderstorm in the mountains dances, and cannot dance enough. But when Marpessa begins to dance, then both the waterfall and the thunderstorm, and even the whirlpools of the rapids stop their dance, freeze, and only gaze, breathless, at the wonder dancer. Would that they could dance like that. And Idas saw her dance, and saw her, all river-like, such as if marble became fire, and fire became radiance, and radiance a stream, and the stream. But where is the word to be found to say what the stream would become? Open your eyes, and close them, and open them again. And before you is marble, and fire, and radiance, and all of this together is a stream, and all of this together is a nymph Titanus, a dancer. Such was the Marpessa that Idas saw. He saw and loved her immensely and furiously. The waves recount that once 2 cliffs by the sea saw her dancing. The cliffs could not endure it. They tore themselves, mad, from their places, to fetter her with all their granite love. The river nymph swam away from them, and from that time, they became the wandering rocks. They wander and ever seek Marpessa. But the young god archer Apollo also saw Marpessa, and he too blazed up with love for her. At that time, the ancient titan Helios still guided the solar car, and the young sun god amused himself by casting golden arrows into the green hair of dryads and naiads, so that golden sparks might flash within them. Idas learned of his rival, a god of the Chronide race, and decided to steal Marpessa as quickly as possible from the round dance of the nymphs during their dance. But how to snatch a river nymph from the round dance? How to carry away a blazing fire so that it would blaze without dying out? Or a flowing stream so that it would flow without drying up? And Idas fell into thought. Thoughts rushed through him like storms, one more furious than the next. Idas thinks. Far below him, the waves of the sea crash with a roar against the steep shore. The waves strike, gasp, and roll back with a roar into the deep. But to Idas it seems that the sea is quiet, that it only purrs and rubs its velvet back against the shore. So stormy and immense-voiced is it in the heart-mind of Idas. It is good for the gods of Olympus. In them, passions are only food for thought-desire, while the thought itself is like the cold lightning of Poseidon's trident. The gods move their thought, and the land and the sea tremble, while the god himself, all in the smile of the heavens, is majestically calm. But Idas is not like that, he who is stronger than any god. The thought itself burns in him, and scorches, and thunders with red-hot stones lightnings, and Idas himself burns in that furious fire. It is heavy for Idas from the storm thought. He wants to raise a wail to the whole world, so that the earth might gape open and come to his aid with all its wisdom, so that the mountains might step forth and lie down under the feet of Marpessa. Would that they bore her high above the river and threw her into the embrace of Idas. But Idas cannot cry out his heart to the world. Euenus, the father of the nymph, will hear his cry, will stand on guard. He will not give Marpessa to Idas. He will only say to him, laughing, "Have you seen my river horses and my river chariot, Idas? I will give Marpessa to you as a wife if you come out with me, a contestant, to a race. If my river horses do not catch up with your horses, take Marpessa, she is yours. And if they do, you will give me your head, Idas, by the Titan truth immutable. Well then, let us wage a wager with you. You stake your head, I stake Marpessa. Well, lead out your Messenian horses, harness them to the chariot, and let us gallop." And Euenus will laugh again. And how could Euenus not laugh? Many heads, severed from the shoulders of suitor claimants, adorn the stakes of the palisade around Euenus's dwelling. Half-god heroes gave their heads for the beautiful nymph. Even to the black god Hades, the fierce Euenus promised to build a palace from the severed heads of heroes. And what horses Euenus has? Euenus himself is not frightful to Idas. Idas would squeeze him with his palms, and the river Euenus would be no more. Only a small swamp would remain in its place. But immutable and fearsome is the Titan truth. If Idas wagers with him, he must give his head to Euenus if Euenus's horses catch up. Oh, and how the Chronide gods would laugh then at the stupid, immensely mighty Idas, the Titan of Messenia. And there are no horses in Messenia equal in swiftness to the Aetolian horses of Euenus. These are not horses, sea whirlwinds are needed here, the horses of Poseidon. And Idas pondered for the third time. Should he not catch a sea-horse whirlwind of Poseidon? Should he not steal Marpessa upon it? Let the river horses then chase after him. And Idas went to the seashore. He stands silently by the sea, and the thought of the horse whirlwind thus rushes over the waves of Idas's thoughts. But he cannot express it to the sea. And yet, the lord of the seas fished out Idas's thought with his little rod of cunning. Poseidon wanted to amuse himself with the spectacle of a chase. He wanted to stir up young Apollo. With Poseidon, everywhere there is rebellion and more rebellion. Hurricanes of 1,000 rams, boiling of the deeps, while with Apollo, everything is in harmony with everything else, like string with string, like the round dances of stars, like the ringing of transparent springs. Should anyone fall out of harmony or grow agitated, Apollo's golden arrow flies at him at once and calms the violent disturbance. Such harmony is not to Poseidon's liking, and Poseidon decided to provoke wild fury in the young god himself, to set Apollo against Idas. And he also decided to test Idas's strength. The giants had said, indeed, that Idas is the son of the ruler of the waters, and by the will of the ruler of the waters, the sea stirred, made noise. The winds began to play with the waves. Idas looks at the sea and sees, among the waves, one high wave rose up. It began to arch, and already it is not a wave, but the neck of a giant horse, and on the neck a white horse's mane foams. Beneath it, the chest rises. And now, as if something flashed, a green horse's eye glanced sidelong at Idas, and at once dived under another wave, as a dolphin dives, playing. Idas watches. Now the horse wave reared up again, still higher than before. And now not only the neck, but the horse's legs also lashed up, whipped the water into foam, and overturned into the depths. Only the horse's tail, serpentine, spreads wide as a pearly sheaf across the swell of the waters. Idas did not lie in ambush for the horse. Wait, he will fish the sea wave out of the sea. Idas leaned forward, tensed. And here, out of nowhere, how the whirlwind blazes with its wing across the sea. Higher than Idas the wave leaped, and now it reared up again as a maned horse from the deep. Idas rushed to the horse wave in the sea, embraced it with his arms, in a clasp, around the neck, and leaped onto its back. Then how the horse snorts. Spray all around. Scarlet nostrils gaped, and the sea whirlwind was only waiting for this. In an instant, it flew into the horse's distended nostrils, dilated them even more, and the whirlwind horse of the sea soared from the waters. Thus it sprang with Idas onto the shore's crag. Yes, and what a horse under Idas! The whirlwind horse carries him to the round dance of the nymphs, carries him as if it were chasing after Idas's heart, which gallops even faster than the whirlwind horse itself. Idas galloped up to the round dance of the nymphs. The round dance whirls. The nymph Marpessa dances in its wide circle, and Marpessa sees, next to her, a fearsome rider. He stood before the nymph, as if grown into the earth, and enveloped her with such heat of love that instantly fiery flowers burst from the earth under Marpessa's feet, and the air above that riverbank, where the river god Euenus slept, soared up in a pink steam and curtained from him both the round dance and the rider on the whirlwind horse. No sooner did Marpessa see the furious Idas, no sooner did she feel the heat of his love, than everything that can ever flame up in the heart of a river nymph flared up within her. And already, of their own accord, the legs, the arms, the whole body of the dancer began to dance the dance of love. The rider on the whirlwind horse circles around the dancing Marpessa. Ever faster he circles, ever more madly. As if into a whirlpool he is drawing Marpessa. And suddenly, someone's hand seized the wonder dancer. And already she rushes, flies in Idas's embrace over the earth, or above the earth, or who knows where. The nymph companions were horrified. They raised a cry. The river god Euenus awoke from the cry. He had no sooner cast a glance into the cloudy distance than he understood everything. And he had not yet called out to his horses, when the river horses already ran out of the river in their racing chariot. Euenus jumped into it, pulled the streaming reins, and rushed in pursuit of the fugitives. Frightful is the deceived river god. He breathes flows with vengeance. Who violated his river will? Who stole Marpessa from Euenus? Be he mortal, be he immortal, he cannot outrun Euenus's river horses. What a race! Even the sheet lightnings blinked their eyes in astonishment. What horses! Swift and impetuous is the mountain torrent. Swift and impetuous are its turbulent waves. And yet their river leap is short compared to the sea's stride. The river waves will reach the sea. They will run into the sea, will pursue the sea's runners with all their swiftness. But those will go with an ocean stride from them. And all that remains for the river waves is to dive into the sea's depth and vanish there forever. But Euenus has not waves, but river horses. These will not dive into the sea's depth. They would become salty, but they will not yield to the sea's runners. The sea whirlwind horse carries Idas with Marpessa to their native Messenia. What are the sea's waves to it? A tablecloth. It will carry them across the sea, then catch up with Idas if you can. Euenus knows, the mountain torrent, the fierce Lycormas, bars the fugitive's path to the sea gulf. The waves of Lycormas are horned. But are they really waves? And who could say, waves? They are not waves, but wolves. And not wolves, but bulls, steep dancing, three-horned ones. Lycormas thrust out in all directions, from shore to shore, horns like the points of underwater rocks. And around those horned rocks, bull tails lash over shoulders, over legs, over eyes. They swirl as whirlpools, drag into some kind of gurgling maws. And here, from the front, from behind, from the sides, the stone horns gore you. They will butt you, throw you, and into shreds. A wild beast will not swim across this torrent. Even a fish would be dashed to pieces in its whirlpools or cast out, all stunned and mangled, onto the shore and even gasp in terror, although it is a fish. The whirlwind horse races through the gorges of Aetolia, from precipice to precipice, from ridge to ridge. It leaps into the abyss, springs onto the peak, but there is no open expanse for a full run. Swiftly and resoundingly, the river horses chase after them. The streaming rains ring on their flanks, and the fugitives hear the stentorian voice of Euenus. Oh, and tall you will be, pine of the palisade. Oh, and sharply will I sharpen you. On it will hang Idas's head. I will tear out, Idas, your eyes. I will pour resin into your eye sockets. I will light this resin, and your eye sockets will burn smokily before Euenus's dwelling as two beacons. Claimants of nymphs will renounce stealing Marpessa from Euenus. Hey, pick up speed, Euenus's horses. And the river gods, rising from the mountain torrents, cry after Euenus. Catch up, Euenus, catch up. The sea runner whirlwind cannot escape the river steeds in the mountains. And the nymph Echo rushes after them like a madwoman, and it seems that hundreds of thousand-voiced companions run away from her in all directions across the mountains and gorges. What a race! What horses! What a chase! Idas knew no fear. He would have taken up the fight with Euenus, but in his arms is Marpessa, and he cannot tear his hands away from Marpessa. For each finger of his hand loves Marpessa, and the bend of his elbow loves her, and his shoulder loves. Would they ever release her from their hands? And without hands, with what then could mighty Idas fight? The fugitives hear the malicious laughter of Euenus behind them. Will he really catch up? And then the fierce torrent Lycormas barred their way. Without hesitation, the whirlwind horse leaped over the torrent. Only spray hung on its hooves. And there, ahead, is the sea field. Euenus, too, galloped up to the bank of Lycormas. Euenus's horses rushed into the torrent. The horned waves of Lycormas took them on their horns, entered into combat with Euenus's horses. The whole herd of bulls fell upon them, gored them with their horns. The river horses could neither run across the backs of the waves, nor swim across, nor dive. The horned ones of Lycormas do not let them through. They beat them back onto the shore, scattered Euenus's chariot into splinters. How could Euenus not choke with fury? Foam hung on the horses like moss. They tremble like down in the wind. The river horses betrayed him. Euenus could not endure such betrayal. He drew his sword, slaughtered his horses there on the shore, and himself jumped knee-deep into the torrent and began to hack the horned waves with his sword. But the sword shattered against their stone horns. Then the bull horses rushed at Euenus. In an instant, they twisted him with their bull tails and dragged him down into the deep. Idas and Marpessa galloped away. But from that time on, the torrent Lycormas came to be called Euenus. And here is what the old tortoise told the tortoise. Before, there was no watermaster for the torrent. And suddenly all Hellas of the half-god heroes learned. The unsociable centaur Nessus appeared on the bank of the torrent. It was as if he came out of the waters of the torrent and became a ferryman. He carried travelers from shore to shore on his horse's back. But he did not carry everyone across, only fugitives, the pursued, of the half-god race. And he took his payment for the crossing merry laughter. And the old tortoise also told the tortoise that Nessus was none other than that Euenus, who had not caught up with the stolen Marpessa. At the bottom of the mountain torrent, among the horned waves, Euenus turned into a centaur, a savior of fugitives. Oh, these old tortoises! What stories they won't tell. Fierce and strong was the river god Euenus. But what is the strength of a river god before the strength of a young celestial Olympian? It is not easy to protect a beautiful river nymph from the shining hands of such a god. Guard now, Idas, Marpessa. Artemis, the morning one, sister of Apollo, loved to gladden her eyes with the morning dance of the nymphs before giving herself over to the hunt. And the goddess saw how Idas stole Marpessa from the round dance of the nymphs and dashed away with his prey across the sea to his native Messenia. At once, Artemis loosed an arrow messenger to Delphi, to the earthly dwelling of Apollo, and herself rushed there after the arrow. The arrow flies, and the goddess huntress does not lag behind the feathering of the arrow. Together they reached the young god. They had only managed to utter, Idas, Marpessa, when Apollo was no longer in Delphi. He rushed as a swan to Messenia in search of the stolen nymph. It is not for Idas to possess the prey singled out by the son of Cronides. No strength of love on earth has yet overpowered the might of an Olympian celestial. He has no rival in love among the race of Titans and half-gods. Marpessa shall not be with Idas. Meanwhile, the sea whirlwind horse had carried the fugitives across the sea to the Messenian shores, and near the steepest place suddenly soared above the wave and plunged into the sea deep with its riders. The river nymph Marpessa laughed in the water, slips in Idas's hot hands, but does not slip out, only draws him tenderly to the shore, and the waters boil around them from the blows of his mighty hands and from the heat of love in Idas's heart. Idas and Marpessa came out onto the shore. They see a migratory flock of swans sits on the shore. Idas says to Marpessa, "Stay, nymph, among the swans. I will seek a secret refuge for you." Envious are the Cronide gods. The happiness of Idas will embitter their hearts. The swans will guard you. If you sense the dangerous proximity of a god, dive into the sea's depth. Only do not forget one thing. Beware of dancing on the seashore. Your dance cannot hide from the eyes of the gods. And Idas disappeared into a mountain pass. The sea slumbers. The swans slumber. The Tritons swam out from the underwater caves to the surface and, protruding their lips, blew into sea shells. They call forth their companions with a morning song from the sea depths to play with them in dolphin dances. The Nereids splash in the sea distance. And from beyond the mountains comes the yearning call of a shepherd's flute. How can a Naiad's heart resist? Marpessa leaped up. Of their own accord, her feet began to step on the tips of her toes. In a pattern, they passed among the swans along the shore. They passed, and sent Marpessa whirling in a dance. And once she began to dance, there was no end to the dance. She forgot everything that Idas had told her. She does not see, does not hear how the swan flock started and stretched their long necks with beady eyes towards the sky. A silver bird appeared above the sea. Its shining plumage keeps growing and growing. As an enormous swan, it hovers lower and lower above the dancer. At the sight of him, the wild swans around Marpessa cried out, beating their wings in alarm. Never in their long swan life had they met such a swan. And the shells of the Tritons howled, and the Nereids scattered, melted into the waves, and the sea went, raging, in billows to the sky. It must be that this heavenly bird swan is an unkind guest for the Titan race. The wondrous swan fell upon the dancer Marpessa. He embraced her with his wing, and was about to take her onto his shoulders and rise with her into the sky, when from the cliff Idas sprang down at the ringing cry of the nymph. He scattered the rising swan flock in white flakes and seized the enormous swan by the golden baldric on its swan wing. Then the swan instantly turned into Apollo. He took on his godly form. And the furious Idas and the young god of Olympus entered into struggle for Marpessa. And above them, the swan flock circles with a cry. Apollo squeezed the wrist of Idas's hand, squeezed so hard that, had it been of iron, the iron would have become wax and Apollo would have crushed that wax. But Idas withstood the grip of the god's right hand. And he himself then heaved the golden baldric towards himself so hard that the coastal cliffs trembled, and the sea, receding from the shore, became a transparent green wall at a distance. And upon that watery wall, the Lord of the Waters, Poseidon himself, stepped up to admire the struggle of Apollo and Idas for the nymph Marpessa. With such might Idas heave the baldric towards himself that he tore off, together with the baldric, the golden bow from Apollo's shoulder. Mightily, Idas pulls the bow towards himself. The young god does not yield it. He sees the end of the bow and draws it back in his direction, like solar horses, the chariot of the sun. He wants to knock Idas to the ground. But Idas does not budge. As if grown into the earth, the giant. Both wrestlers are as if on fire, such heat comes from them. And everything around is flooded with radiance, from the rays of Apollo's eyes, and from the flame of Idas's love for Marpessa. Marpessa stands, does not stir. Only her arms seem to flow through the air and with tender moisture quench the breath and thirst of the inflamed fighters, and in unprecedented diamond rains, her loosened tresses, spread by the wind, hurl themselves over the shore and sea, now shrouding her entirely, now revealing her. The sea gazes at her with all its eyes and cannot gaze its fill. Only it heaves a heavy sigh with the 1,000-year-old blue-eyed yearning of the old man of the sea. Such as Marpessa, the young celestial cannot overcome the earthly Idas, the Titan. With all his sun-like radiance, he is powerless to overcome the heat of love in Idas's heart. It is as if Gaia Earth gives Idas her deep fire from her depths. So mighty is Idas, the opponent of the god. Suddenly Apollo snatched a golden arrow from his quiver, placed it instantly on the string, and, releasing the end of the bow from his hand, he tensed the string. True is the arrow of the sun, and Idas would have been pierced by the arrow, but then Marpessa's hair twined around the bow, immediately entangled the string, preventing it from straightening. The string slipped from the young god's hands, and the bow remained in Idas's hand, and the rain of Marpessa's hair again spreads under the wind. The golden bow of the sun god burns Idas's fingers. He dropped to one knee and with a groan aimed the same golden arrow at the young god. And how could he not groan from the scorching heat of such gold from the heavens? Poseidon saw from the watery wall of the sea how Idas was aiming. He sent a billow higher than a giant onto the seashore to drown Idas, who had dared to overcome a god. But Zeus Croneides also saw the struggle of the rivals. He could not let his son be wronged. He could not disgrace an Olympian celestial of the Croneid race. He hurled a lightning bolt from his thunderbolt launcher onto the shore. The lightning struck between the fighters, pierced the ground at their feet, and Idas dropped Apollo's bow, even fell over backwards from the lightning's blow. But before the menacing sign of Zeus, his rival Apollo also stepped back a pace from Idas. The sea darkened, Poseidon vanished, and already Iris Rainbow flies to the fighters from Olympus as a messenger. Iris says to Marpessa, "River sister, choose from the two who love you the one who is dearer to you. Whomever you choose, with him you will depart. Such is the wisdom of Zeus. And if either of the rivals disobeys and does not accept your choice, he will meet the fate of the ancient Titans, to be in Tartarus from a new bolt of lightning." Apollo and Idas look at Marpessa. Marpessa also looks at the Titan and the god. In both, a supermighty strength. The eyes of Apollo shine smile. In them is Loveandthesun. The eyes of Idas burn with furious fire. In them is Onlylove. Marpessa shifts her eyes in thought from one to the other. Both are dear to Marpessa's heart. If she chooses Apollo, then the nymph will become a goddess and bear him a god. If she chooses Idas, then she will remain a Titaness and bear him a Titan. Marpessa stands in thought. Truly, the god is sovereign. But still, the Titan overcame him. Love and the sun shine in the eyes of the sun god. But they shine not for her alone. They shine for all nymphs and goddesses. Someday, they will cease to shine, looking at Marpessa, and will turn away. For another they will then shine. And Idas? With fierce love alone do Idas's eyes burn. There is no radiance of the sun in them, but they burn only for Marpessa. And Marpessa stepped under Idas's arm. Then Apollo loosed a golden arrow into the darkened sea and himself vanished somewhere beyond the sea, in its golden fire. Iris too swept back into the sky. Only she cast from the sky onto the shoulders of the river nymph Marpessa, as a gift, her rainbow mantle. The tale of the struggle. Of the brothers of Faraday, Idas and Lycius. With the brothers Dioscuri, Castor and Polydeuces. The tale of the silver egg of Leda. And of the stealing of the swan maidens. Leucippades by the Dioscuri, superscript 1. This is what the old swan told the young swan at the tract of Sycyra, near Sparta. There lived by the riverbank in Sycyra a swan maiden, by the name of Leda, and she was both a maiden and a swan. Her head, arms, and breast were a maiden's, while along her arms, from the shoulders, like feathered sleeves, fell swan wings, and such wide, downy, rich, all in curls, as if on Leda was a swan's shift. Sometimes, Leda would lie with her breast on the water, set her 2 wings as sails, and it seemed, truly as swan swims. And when she came out onto the shore, she would shake herself, drop her wings carelessly from her shoulders as a downy shawl, wrap herself in it. And now she is no longer a swan before you, but a maiden. And from where did she come out like that? From a pearl, perhaps? She lies under a plane tree, a new wonder. You approach from the right. A swan slumbers, you approach from the left. A girl nestles on a little rug of swan's down, and her whole body is as if bathed in flowing gold. Or else Leda stands above the river and sings. All around, the fish have frozen in shoals. They listen to the song. She stops singing, and the fish carry her song into the river's depth. And this song of Leda will long play upon their scales, shimmering with colors never seen on earth. For a long time, Apollo flew as a silver swan above the earth, rejected by the nymph Marpessa, and he saw from the sky the swan maiden slumbering under a tree. The young god flew down to her, and from that time, Apollo often visited Leda in the form of a wondrous swan. There lived then near Sycyra the Titan giant Leucippus, famed for his white horses, and he found one early morning on the bank a large silver egg, such an egg that even a foal could hatch from it, and not only a swan. Leucippus guessed that it was no simple bird that laid this egg, that it was of Titan race, and he placed it in a stone grotto by the horse enclosure. He returned towards evening to the grotto and sees, lying in the grotto, in 2 silver empty halves, is the egg, cleft in 2, and near those have sit 2 girls. One, all like the smile of early morning, the other, like the radiance of a lunar evening, and a white mare from his herd feeds them with milk. Leucippus looked closely at them, and called one Phoebe, and the other Heliera. The nymphs, however, called them the white Mares, Leucippides. The Leucippide sisters were shapeshifters. They could turn into both swans and white Mares. And from afar, those swans looked so much like Mares that it was impossible to distinguish whether swans swam through the sky or winged horses. The horses had swan-like necks, and their wings were swan-like, and they tucked their legs like birds. Leucippus looks at the Leucippides and rejoices. What merry girls! What beauties! They would come out, sometimes, from the grotto as 2 maidens, wave their arms 3 times as if they were wings, and soar to the sky as 2 white swans. And as soon as they struck the earth in flight with their breasts, behold, they are no longer swans, but white Mares. There is no wonder in this. It is not only gods who can be shapeshifters. The Leucipides were born, and Leda was no more in Sykyra. The gray geese recounted that Zeus Chronides himself had carried her off to Mount Taygetus and hidden her by a lake, in a thick juniper. But the dusky ducks recounted differently. From the ducks, the old swan also heard. Leucippus had a brother, the Titan Tyndareus the Shaker, a hunter of birds and beasts. Bright as day was his life. Superscript 1 myths connected with Leda, the Leucipides, and the Dioscuri originally belonged to the tales of the Apollonian Circle and had no relation to Zeus. The swan is the bird of Apollo. White horses are the same swans. The Leucipides were the name given to both the Dioscuri themselves and the daughters of Apollo, Phoebe and Heliera, and the team of Apollo and the horses of the Dioscuri. In ancient poets, the epithet applied to the Dioscuri, white-horsed, is also preserved. Only after Zeus became the head of the Olympian pantheon did many tales associated with other gods, including Apollo, pass to him. Thus Apollo Swan, united with Leda, was replaced by Zeus Swan, and the Spartan Dioscuri became the sons of Zeus and Leda.